Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer quick match gameplay. This time around I'm playing as the Wood Elves against Empire led by Amansha on the map Kelp and Cold Dust. Trying out a bit of a different build this time around, or a significantly different build. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to pause real quick because the match will start fairly quickly. And so, first of all, I'm running a very unconventional build here. Seeing that it was Empire, I decided to go give it a shot and attempt a kiting slash flanking Wood Elf build. And all my units except my Glady have Vanguard deployment. And as you can see, she's all the way back here on a Eagle, giving her high mobility, ability to flex everywhere and just kind of whittle down my opponent, snipe him down. Obviously coming in with Prey Vantage Threma, Arrow of Kurnus, Potion of Toughness, and Potion of Foolhardiness. Backed up by a Branch Wraith over here for the combination of the Lore of Life spells, the most importantly Earthblood, Melkoth's Defying Miasma, and the Withering. Also, of course, coming in with those melee attack and mobility buffs to help the rest of my army, which, as we can see, I am bringing two other heroes, the two Waystalkers, both coming in with, of course, an Arrow of Kurnus and Hawkish Precision, which will give them extra armor-piercing damage at long range, over 70 meters, which they should be able to maintain fairly easily. They are getting the benefit of that extra mobility from the Branch Wraith, so that should help them significantly. I'm just hoping to use these to snipe my opponent down a little bit, whittle them down over time, destroy high-value targets, that sort of thing. They are bad, and I do believe these guys can also fire while they are stealth, which is a very significant benefit. That's even better than Way Watchers and the Deepwood Scouts, which are over here. I did bring 2 units of Way Watchers just to once again destroy high armor targets very quickly with their high armor piercing damage. Of course, they also have the Hawkish Precision trait, and they are getting that boost from the to speed. Same with the Deepwood Scouts, also getting that boost to speed. And these guys are down here to melt down squishy targets. I did put a point into their. I did give each a point of veterancy because I have some points left over. Definitely hoping to just melt Empire's squishy infantry with them. Then unsure of how my opponent was going to deploy. I was expecting deployment over here, but unsure what exactly was going to go down. I did set up a unit of Wild Riders here just to reinforce. And then 2 other units of Wild Riders over here just to support these guys. As you can see, my layout is very, very spaced out. If we zoom out, we can see just how the fact that it's a concave, kind of arcing around and stretching out to there. So I was expecting my opponent to be about here and here, controlling the high ground and this area between the woods and the ridge, and defending there. So I was hoping to just be able to shoot at them. And by spreading out my archers this way, I'm ensuring that my opponent can't shut down all of my ranged fire support all at once. I did turn off auto fire because I didn't want to immediately reveal my positions because I wasn't sure what my opponent brought. Now my opponent, we'll start the game. I'll shortly be just start sniping away at his captain, who's over here gaining intel. He does have a General of the Empire on foot with a Potion of Toughness, a Potion of Strength, and Hold Your Ground and Stand Your Ground. He does have a Light Wizard over here with a Net of Mintok and Protection of Fa, or Fa's Protection. A unit of Silver Bullets, a unit of Tattersouls is in here somewhere, right there. A unit of Great Swords. Most importantly, as far as concerns for me, is this unit of Vice Guard, which gives him some significant mobility, a Great Cannon, and a Mortar Team, all of which give him superior range to my Kiting Infantry. Then he has several units of Swordsmen, all veteraned up to rank 4, and several units of Free Company Militia ranked up to veterancy 6. And some Spearmen ranked up to veterancy 4 as well. And these guys should be fairly vulnerable to the arrows, as should the Tattersouls, but definitely something I have to watch out for. I obviously can't afford to let myself get tied down by the Net of Mintok or in a melee with any of these guys. Free Company Militia, especially with the veterancy, will definitely be a potent ranged or a potent melee combatant if they should close the distance on me. Now, as you can see, I am immediately opening fire on my opponent's Light Wizard, trying to whittle him down with the Waystalkers without getting netted. And over here, my Glady is sniping away at the Swordsman. Unfortunately, I didn't turn off auto fire. I do start suspecting a bit of foul play here when these guys get revealed without being too close to my opponent. That is, of course, because these Silver Bullets, who did not actually get revealed, were there. And I do get netted, but unfortunately, it is a single cast. I was hovering my mouse over the Potion of Toughness and Potion of Foolhardiness if I needed to heal myself through this, but unfortunately, because it was generic and I have Mintok, I was able to just outlast it. Over here, though, the Empire Captain is pushing into my force. My opponent has kind of just realizing that I'm probably playing a kiting build. He's kind of drawn himself up over here in a defensive formation, just boxed up. Now I push out my Wild Riders to intercept the Empire Captain, try to shut him down. He is dueling with the Waystalker. The Waystalker is not an amazing duelist, but I do believe he's somewhat better than the... he is definitely somewhat better than the... what do you call him? The Witch Hunter. And I think a better hero overall than the Witch Hunter. Unfortunately, my Wild Riders do start taking some nasty fire from the silver bullets, and despite my Waystalkers returning a few shots, I am forced to retreat with them. Some cannon shots are going in, so are the mortars, but they shouldn't be able to do too much to the Waystalkers, though they do land a hit over there. And the Wild Riders are able to bail out fairly quickly. As you can see, my opponent has kind of drawn up a box here. Artillery and melee infantry on one end, Free Company Militia on the other. Backed up by the detached, so it's very good. Gonna be very hard for me to break, especially with the silver bullets out here zoning me away. I dropped Brave Anathrema on the Empire Captain, hoping to just poke him down and kill him as quickly as I can. Unfortunately, it does not quite work out, even though, of course, these Switcher Shards, the Way Watchers, and all of them are opening fire on my opponent. Unfortunately, the Way Watchers did have their auto attack turned off, so they didn't fire immediately. There's definitely some damage going into this Empire Captain, but not enough. I do pull the Wild Riders away because I don't want them getting shut down by my own archers. And the Waystalkers are taking fire from the silver bullets, so I do withdraw and I'll simply allow this captain to retreat. Now at this point my opponent is still bunkering down in the corner. I am shifting these deep wood scouts. They still haven't been revealed, so my opponent is not entirely sure what my army is. He could it could be a bunch of shooting infantry, but at this point I do pull the Wild Riders forward, trying to get them into position in this stretch of woods. And unfortunately I forget about the branch wraith, but I do eventually move, because these guys were hotkeyed, the branch wraith was not, at least not in the same hotkey group as them, and so it takes a little while for me to move them. But I'm picking off this Empire Captain. He took another hit in the back from the Waystalkers, who are simply just trying to poke him down a bit. My opponent is using cannon shots firing cannon shots at the Glade Lord, or my Glady, and now pushing up his silver bullets, trying to shut me down. As you can see, this match has already been going on for about 4 minutes, and not that much damage has been done on either side. I've taken a bit of damage on my heroes, and that is ideal because the heroes can be healed up, and they're single models, so their effective DPS is not really dropping. Get another shot into this Empire Captain's back, dropping by another 100 HP. I do start taking some fire from these silver bullets. Unfortunately, because they are flickering in and out of vision, my Swift Shiver Shards are not actually able to get a beat on them. They aren't able to get shots in at this point. I want to look at what these guys' armor piercing is. Should be yeah, they have 105 armor piercing damage, which means that they can actually fairly effectively take down something like Reiksguard with, or at least and they can take off models off Reiksguard with single shots. So definitely a very powerful unit. Unfortunately, as you can see, because what elves get tired very, very quickly from firing their bows and arrows. My Glady is still active, but the Way Watchers have already dropped the tired from firing so much. They do pick off a model here on the Reiksguard. Of course, shields do reduce my chances of actually doing damage. Getting some damage in there. Onto the silver bullets, who have dropped down to 64 models. Still very strong. Still most of their starting strength is there. And of course I'm cutting back. I don't want to get caught by the Reiksguard. The Reiksguard is not the quickest. It's 66, so standard heavy cav speed. But my Waystalkers are still a bit slower, so I'm just trying to pull them back, not get caught by them. But now I do drop Pair of Anathrema on the Reiksguard, and I do open fire. Unfortunately, as you can see, my Glady's shot dips there and doesn't quite hit. But I'm firing off some Arrows of Kurnus over here on the Reiksguard, and that should definitely weaken them a fair bit. Fortunately, it looks like the Spearmen soaked up the shot there, and of course they've taken 20 losses. That is very dirt cheap, very cost efficient. Unfortunately for my opponent, my Way Watchers are now opening fire, and they will actually do fairly well against the Reiksguard. But of course my opponent does have artillery and cannons, and because these guys are very stretched out, they are taking some nasty hits from the cannons, and I'm shortly able to force to scatter them. Fortunately, elves, though they are very squishy, do have a pretty spread out, or most of the elven units have a very strung out deployment, sort of like skirmish formation. So they're fairly resilient to artillery fire. And I do pull away. I actually thought these guys were handgunners initially. They were only Free Company Militia. But I definitely didn't want to get caught by handgunners and just melt it down, because they will do a very, very hefty number on something like, say, Way Watchers. I'm forced to keep these guys moving. But they did get a little bit of damage into these silver bullets. And of course the Branch Wraith is out here, kind of posturing. Ready to heal up my Glady if needed. Drop Melkoth, Mystify Miasma, anything like that, just to support my army as or if needed. And I'm trying to whittle down this White Wizard. If I can get shots into him with my Way Watchers, that sort of thing, that would be great. Now I do push these, seeing an opportunity, I do try to push the Wild Riders in. Unfortunately, my opponent's Empire Captain, his Great Swords, his Reiksguard, and his Silver Bullets are there. I do hit his Reichsguard in the rear with a Arrow of Kurnus, and my Wild Riders do get on top of his mortars, or Great Cannon, but unfortunately they are simply not able to destroy it before they themselves are surrounded and annihilated. They will die very quickly at that combined enemy concentrated attack, and once their frenzy expires, they're simply not able to dish out enough hurt. Over here, my opponent is pushing into me, and I will simply start retreating with the Deep Wood Scouts. My Way Watchers are, of course, still firing away, really unmolested. These Way Watchers will shortly, I think, pull out. Same with these Way Stalkers. My Glady is still flying around, trying to poke away at my opponent, trying to snipe down this Empire Captain. My opponent does push his swordsmen towards this woods, just trying to clear him out. Perhaps thinking the only thing here was the Branch Wraith, and I hit his swordsman with Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. This actually does a lot of damage to squishy units, and then immediately follow it up with the charge from the Wild Riders, who will shortly destroy these swordsmen. In the meantime, my Switchers are retreating. My Glady does get hit by another Net of Mintok. My opponent, though, has been just simply dropping these on normal cast, though. And given the relatively low damage output from the Free Company Militia, which is just getting completely deleted by the archers or the Deepwood Scouts over here, he simply won't have the firepower to bring down this Glady. His best ranged unit, the Silver Bullets, are all the way up here. They simply won't be here in time to help. Now, the Wild Riders have practically annihilated these swordsmen. I do believe they've shattered at this stage, and now they're going to be able to push into the back of these swords and deal with them. Meantime, my Switchers are still fleeing. Unfortunately, they are in this strong out formation, which will leave them somewhat vulnerable to my opponent. Tattersouls, though, as you can see, are getting absolutely annihilated by all these Switch fire. These guys are racking up a significant amount of kills already. Up to 68, 54. You can see they're doing incredibly well against lightly armored Empire infantry. The Wild Riders do crash into the back of these swordsmen, but of course Stand Your Ground goes down, and my opponent's general and his second unit of swordsmen are pushing back in, and of course, though they are not anti-large, they will still do pretty well. Free Company Militia is getting slagged by the Wild Way Watchers, but of course the Way Watchers are getting hit by the artillery. And shortly thereafter, I'm going to withdraw into the woods just to stay out of range of the artillery fire and out of the range of this Free Company Militia. My Glady has at this point popped her healing, potion of healing, and I do believe potion of full hardiness. And over here, unfortunately, these Wild Riders are being a little tied down. This one unit has been a bit tied down. This other unit is getting to the back of my opponent, who is getting whittled down by the massed switcher fire. As you can see, already up to over 80 kills, over 90 kills over on this unit. And this unit of spears is breaking. The Tattersouls are almost annihilated. I'm focusing them down with the cavalry because they will not break, unlike the swordsmen, who I'm fairly, at this point, confident that I can break with arrow fire. I'm trying to push the Branch Wraith thing, simply leaving these guys to their fates. Wild Riders, I figured the net will expire and they'll be able to escape. More spearmen are getting picked off by the Glady, who then moves on to help deal with the flagellants. These Wild Riders or one of them I do believe gets caught over there by the spears because of lapse in micro. And in the meantime, though, these Great Swords have pushed away from the artillery park, and now are taking fire from the Way Watchers, who are going to do very solid work against them with their armor piercing. My opponent's artillery is coming in pretty hard, almost immediately, but I was going to struggle to do too much decisive damage here, and plus the Way Watchers are almost out of ammo, so while obviously I don't want to take any losses if I can avoid it, it's not the end of the world. And these Great Swords are almost finished. And my opponent does decide at this point to regroup. I am routing off these swordsmen, and I am annihilating the last of his flat Tattersouls. An Overcast Earthblood has gone down to heal all of these units back up to at least a decent amount of health. And so these Wild Riders are pushing up top. These guys are still at almost a full. These guys are doing fairly well still. 32 models, definitely not bad. So as of now, these Way Watchers are out of ammo, and they are winded. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing around this way, trying to get into my opponent's back line and get into melee with them, while these units that still have ammo are being used to try to whittle my opponent down. I do want to get the pick on this Light Wizard, so I'm pushing my Lord forward, or my Glady forward, trying to get a net Prey of Anathrema on him. As you can see, another arrow does go down on the Spearman. Unfortunately, I forget to turn off auto fire. Definitely lasted micro there. Wild Riders are pushing in. I was hoping to get a charge in on the artillery, but then think better of it because the enemy artillery is ready for me. The Great Cannon still has all 3 guns, and most importantly, these Free Company Militia, though incredibly badly beaten, are still around and kicking, and could definitely. And I'm not entirely sure where the Silver Bullets are at the moment, so I'm worried that they could take some nasty hurt. Now, this once again, my Glady gets caught by a net of Mintok, but I'm not too concerned about this because the Silver Bullets, although of course capable of dishing out quite a bit of hurt, are far away. And at this point in the game, I have already healed her up to full, and I can always heal more. Wild Riders are still taking some artillery fire, so I'm trying to pull them back, keep them away. Fortunately, those were definitely some. I lost quite a few models. I lost like half a dozen models of Wild Riders there, which is a little bit of a waste, given that they didn't achieve anything. Definitely a bit of a mistake on my part. Silver Bullets, though, did take a few volleys from the Way Watchers. Way Watchers are not ideal against squishy targets, not so much because they can't kill them, but because it's a waste of their ammo. Lady, though, and the Waystalkers are pushing forward. And at this point, I've given up on the idea of catching the Light Wizard. I know he's probably very low on his Winds of Magic. And so rather than trying to kill the Wizard, I've decided that I'm going to try to finish off these Silver Bullets. And so I'm pushing towards them as quickly as I can. Seeing an opportunity, my Lady does push in. She still hasn't actually hit her healing cap, so I'm pushing her straight in, going after these Silver Bullets. Whittling them down with a handful of shots from the Way Watchers, who are almost out of ammo. They have one round shooting left in them. And the Lady is in on top of them. And we'll be able to throw these guys around. Frost protection does go down, which will improve my opponent's melee defense and armor. Given that the Great Eagle does not actually have that much the best of melee stats, this is definitely a decent boost. As you can see, the Lady over there is flipping around, devastating Silver Bullets. Pushing in, though, with the Branch Raids, just trying to dish out even more melee damage. And pushing in with the Waystalkers, just trying to pick off these Reiksguard, who are now down to 2 models and have absolutely shattered. And I'm looking for an opportunity to push these Wild Riders and pushing these Deepwood Scouts with Swift Shivers up just to get shots into my opponent's ranged. And I do push the Branch Raids straight into my opponent's Free Company Militia and take time down and open up an opportunity for the rest of my army to hopefully get some damage. I do get another shot in with the Waystalker. I do believe the Waystalker's shots do pierce, much like the Gladies. So they can take out multiple units at once. Still not like particularly cost efficient. It's kind of like a bolt throw level, but definitely not terrible. The cannons do struggle to hit. Now, if you do a Dragon, or if you're at closer range, or say they have a Hammer, which is like high veterancy artillery, the Gladiana Eagle is definitely susceptible to artillery fire or cannon fire. But when it's a low veterancy unit like this, a generic great cannon, it's not the biggest of flying models, so definitely not. And of course, it's not a big unit like say Hawk Riders, so it's definitely not the end of the world. As you can see, the balance of power is still fairly even. It certainly hasn't swung decisively one way or another. I do drop a Melkoth's Mystifying Amazon on the Free Company Militia, and it's melting him down. The Melkoth's Mystifying Amazon is basically like a very, it's like a, in my opinion, like a poor man's Flock of Doom, and it can definitely do that job very well. I do believe a cannon shot does hit my Glady over here, because I'm not microing her properly. The Swift Shiver Shards, though, are absolutely demolishing the Free Company Militia. I do drop Praevan Aetherium on the General of the Empire. Lords are a bit quicker than regular infantry. And so I definitely want to keep him away, make sure that he can't do anything. Now the Wild Riders finally got the jump on my opponent here and absolutely shatter his mortars, his Great Cannon, his Free Company Militia. All those units are getting absolutely destroyed. Keep in mind, Wild Riders do cause fear, and that's something that I think a lot of people overlook, but they do cause fear. And stacked on top of their Frenzy, it means they can very quickly rout and break an opponent. Now, while Way Watchers are ganging up on and overwhelming these Silver Bullets, the Silver Bullets are a high veterancy unit, so they will hold out somewhat well, even though the Way Watchers have very solid melee stats for a ranged unit. They're very decent melee combatants. In the meantime, of course, the Wild Riders are simply destroying these Free Company Militia with the add-on of Fear. Their Silver Shields basically denying all range damage. The Frenzy, they're just destroying them. My Glady is running out of ammo, down to 3 rounds at this point. Trying to pick off great swords, but unfortunately I think that once again Lasts of Micro. I do have these Lasts of Micro here, and that's not good. I did cast another another heal recently. As you can see, the Branch Raid is back up to a decent amount of HP. The Swift Shivers were unfortunately turned off auto fire, so which would have been smart here because they meant they just stopped shooting. Sometimes the even if you do select a target, if your units are moving, they will not keep firing on the target, which is a bit of a problem. Now I'm pushing my Wild Riders into my opponent's rear, just going after this infantry because the Spearmen are almost destroyed. The Lady shortly is going to bail out. I dropped her on the swords, but realizing that the General is here, and I don't want to lose the Lady and lose all of my morale at this point, I did run away with the Lady on the Eagle and take off and escape the General. These spears are practically broken. As you can see, these guys are just raking in the kills. The Wild Riders charge into my opponent's rear. Greatswords are normally very well armored and very resilient, even to something like Wild Riders, but because they are just getting swarmed here, and they've already taken significant losses in HP damage, they're just breaking. My opponent's swordsman and his general are still doing okay. I fire off my last arrow of Kurnus that I'd forgotten to use on this Waystalker who's out of ammo. He was actually pushing into do melee against the Greatswords because he's out of ammo. This guy still has a handful of shots, 4 rounds in the mag. Way Watchers are pushing in to swarm the swordsmen. Who they should do okay against. Of course, the swordsmen are veterancy 4. Now this Waystalker is getting tied down fighting the general in melee, so he will definitely not enjoy that. The Branch Wraith is really badly beaten up trying to fight the general, but at this point my opponent's army is absolutely breaking, and his general of the Empire is shattering thanks to army losses. He's wavering, and now he breaks, and that is game. So definitely a long and tedious matchup. My opponent was definitely not pleased. No, definitely saying some unhappy things in chat. And I can understand the frustration of dealing with this sort of build. But I definitely wanted to try the challenge. It was playing kiting elves, although it can be very frustrating to play against. Does take a fair bit of micro, especially to make it function properly. And I definitely want to give it a shot against a faction like Empire, which traditionally does fairly well against these kind of kiting builds because of all their artillery. The Empire is probably second, I'd say, to Dwarves for their ability to resist a kiting build from Wood Elves. Obviously, Glady did really well, 81 kills, of which about half were, I'd say, maybe about a third were in melee. She definitely helped drop some fear bombs, some disruption from the air with the Great Eagle. Those Prey of Anatheriums were very useful, as were the Arrows of Kurnus, helping whittle down those Reichsguard over time. And breaking my opponent's key units, though I did waste one on the Great Cannon early on, and that didn't do too much. The Branch Wraith, of course, that boosts the mobility, the ability to tie down my opponent in melee a little bit more. Being able to Vanguard deploy, the fact that I could Vanguard deploy my whole army, and this gave me this gave me kind of the best of both worlds with Lore of Shadows and Lore of Life, because mostly I want the Branch Wraith, or my spellcaster to be there for being flexibility, rather than, say, dedicated to Lore of Life. I'm not looking to cast any Occam's Mind Razors or Pit of Shades or Regrowths in this build. It's mostly just general purpose, flexible stuff, and the Branch Wraith definitely suits that very, very well. The Waystalkers did racked up a lot of kills as well. Not entirely sure they were worth their cost, though with the Arrows of Kurnus thrown in, their ability to shut down the Reichsguard, their sniping down of the Light Wizard, the Empire Captain, dishing out some damage to the Empire General, that sort of stuff, they definitely performed fairly well. Definitely not a terrible pick for me. I'm simply not sure they were worth their cost in the long run, given that they cost almost or roughly as much as Way Watchers. Deepwood Scouts did amazing work. Deepwood Scouts are very powerful against squishy units because their DPS is so high. It's, I do believe, 14 and 14 on their I do believe it's 14 and 4 on each projectile, but they fire 2 projectiles with every shot. So they can very quickly, especially against unshielded units like these poor Spearmen and the Flagellants, the Tattersouls, even the Greatswords, who despite having armor don't have shields, they will destroy them very, very quickly. And there you can see that with these kill counts. This is basically 2 squads worth of units destroyed by each of them. And of course that doesn't consider things like enemies. And of course you don't necessarily have to wipe out your opponent's entire army unless you're playing against vampire counts to force a rout. So definitely very powerful. The Way Watchers, of course, didn't get as many kills, but they did some decent damage to the Greatswords, who were probably my opponent's strongest unit. They definitely helped pick off the Silver Bullets. The Swift Shiver Shards, while very potent, have short range, and that can make it a bit of a struggle to contest something like, say, Silver Bullets with their enhanced range and stalk ability. The Way Watchers, on the other hand, provide a very solid counter to that. They also could melee down my opponent's infantry once they ran out of ammo, which was very useful. The Wild Riders, of course, did amazing work. This unit, although it got wiped out completely and didn't achieve much kill-wise, it actually tied down my opponent's Reichsguard, his Silver Bullets, his Greatswords, and his Empire Captain, and that, even though he was fairly low HP, and his artillery, which meant that the rest of my army, the Way Watchers, the Swift Shivers, my other Wild Riders, the Branch Wraith and the Glady, all them, the Waystalkers, could all be picking apart his slow infantry contingent, which forced that regroup, which eventually forced my opponent to launch that retreat that saw me pick off the Silver Bullets and destroy his Light Wizard. And actually the Branch Wraith ended up killing the Light Wizard, which is something I forgot about, but that was definitely a useful thing. So and with the other 2 units of Wild Riders, of course, dished out huge amounts of hurt. As you can see, several of these units, the Way Watchers, the Wild Riders, and of course the 2 units of Swift Shiver Shards, all gained a veterancy rank throughout the course of this game. So just dishing out huge amounts of hurt. Very solid, I think, build. I'm not sure the Waystalkers were better than, say, a block of Way Watchers. 2 squads of Way Watchers might have been better than 2 Waystalkers. I'm not entirely sure, even if I had to sacrifice the veterancy points on the Deepwood Scouts. But definitely not complaining. They definitely did a decent job. For my opponent, of course, he barely came to grips with me. His best performing units were, of course, the Silver Bullets, the Greatswords, because they fought the Wild Riders at the very end, and that one bad engagement around the cannons. And the Reichsguard, once again, because they fought the Wild Riders. The Silver Bullets generally did an okay job zoning me. The Tattersouls, the Flagellants, once again, basically the only units that in my opponent's army that got a decent amount of kills were the ones that ended up fighting the Wild Riders. Units that did not. Occasionally, my opponent did manage to catch up to Deepwood Scouts with Swift Shivers, and when I had a lapse in micro, and so he'd get a few kills in here and there with his spearmen, with his swords. But most of these, the big kill blocks, were thanks to, especially on the melee units, were simply thanks to them fighting against the Wild Riders, who of course had to commit to melee to actually do anything. So definitely very useful there. For definitely this mobility and firepower, of course, from the branch rates, enhancing that. Definitely very useful there. As you can see, it takes a lot of micro. If you have a single lapse in micro, of course, you can lose your entire army. If you lose because you have to get the maximum value out of your ammunition, if at all possible. If you lose, if I say had lost a single unit of Deepwood Scouts, even if they'd already done, say, half the kills they'd done, that could have been absolutely disastrous for me in that game. Even worse, if I'd lost the Way Watchers, the Way Stalkers before they could pick off that Reichsguard, that would have been disastrous. This sort of Wood Elf build can fall apart very quickly if you're ranged, and if your range contingent falls apart. So that is something very important to keep in mind. It is very micro intensive. And you can't expect any sudden terror shock / fear shock victories. As you can see, my opponent's army dropped to only 142 remaining models. And obviously some of that is, of course, because the units were high veterancy, some of them were unbreakable, that sort of thing. But definitely if I'd run a more conventional build and come out on top, I would have probably been able to shatter him much sooner, probably because I'd have killed that general, the Empire, that sort of thing. So definitely a few things to keep in mind. I had a lot of fun with this build. If you guys like this video, I thank my opponent for the great game. If you guys did like this video, do feel free to like or subscribe down below. If you have any comments, criticism, any questions you'd like to ask, any requests you'd like to make for future builds or army comps or units you'd like me to showcase, whether or not even if it's a unit that's not used often, I'm fine with trying it. Do post those down in the comment section, and I'll be sure to respond as soon as I can. I appreciate you all for watching, and Wyvern out.